You also have to look at the route that they were flying. Those routes are usually reserved for the most senior pilots. And so you probably have a first officer on there who's got probably 15 to 20 years of experience. And so I really, I think this will be a relatively routine landing for these folks.
Yeah. We understand that the emergency vehicles are already out there on the runway. And again, for those who might just be tuning in, it's going to be called an emergency landing. And maybe, Scott, you could help us with the designation here, because there isn't any reason really to, I mean, if you're on this plane, you're probably not going to be experiencing anything other than a normal landing. Yes, it is going to be a little dicey, coming in through the murk, but especially on a plane like the 777, the instruments on board can practically land that plane by itself.
Absolutely. And, as you're saying, the technology on aircraft today are just amazing. And weather, non-weather, I mean, it doesn't make a big difference when you're flying a big aircraft like this and you've got senior pilots like you do on this aircraft. So, yes, it's an emergency landing. They'll have everybody out there. They'll have all the lights flashing. They'll clear a lot of the airspace, but at the end of the day, it's going to be a nice, calm landing, hopefully.
Jenna Lee from our Fox Business Network reminds me that there may be televisions on board this plane, and some of these passengers might be watching the news. I forget that has happened in the past. There was a JetBlue flight that was having a bit of a landing gear problem a while ago, and the passengers actually watched the landing live in their on-screen TVs.
Yeah.
They're on-seat TVs.
Now, I would assume that the first officer has probably gone on the intercom, let everybody know that they've got a little bit of a situation, but probably went over kind of what his experiences are and his new co-pilot. So I'm guessing everybody's, I'm sure there's still some nervous people up there.
Yeah. It is possible that may be the plane already having landed, Flight 61. We're seeing the camera at Newark Airport panning along with an airplane on the ground that looks to me like a 777. A little hard to tell through the murk. Shannon?
I think we have some more information from Harris Faulkner as well. Live in the newsroom, John, you mentioned that some of these planes are equipped with televisions and other ways for people to communicate. Harris, do you have any more information about finding out what the passengers may know and why that's so important?
What they may know right now is that their plane has landed. Because that's what Continental Airlines is reporting on their website. What you can do is a moment by moment, and I actually watched it happen on the screen. We couldn't, it's too murky out there. John used the right word. It's just too soupy, murky out there to actually see it come out of the sky. But what you can do is a real-time status check, and I've done that on my computer screen. Landed, taxiing to gate. We should be able to see it. You can't. Gosh, the lighting is just so bad too, but see all of the emergency vehicles off to the left of the screen there. They're following that plane that's kind of almost going out of frame. From what I'm understanding, that is the plane that has just landed, and it would make perfect sense because there were no other scheduled emergency landings for noon hour. They got this plane on the ground fast. They got it in early, and it flashed up on their flight status real time. Within seconds, that plane went right off the map that I was following because it had already landed, and it looks to have done so safely. Now, what the FAA guy, Scott, was talking about was whether or not they kept the other planes away. I haven't seen anything move other than those emergency vehicles after that plane. So there was no other confusion about whether or not there were any other planes on that runway that it came in on. But again, I'm going to refresh my page. Taxiing to gate and has landed. I'm waiting momentarily for Continental to give me an indication, Shannon, to speak to the issue that you raised of whether or not people knew what was going on when they landed, because they knew once they got below a certain level, people's cell phones, they know they're not supposed to, but they turn those bad boys on and they start talking to relatives, and we know that from Miracle on the Hudson. We know that from a lot of things that have happened recently, and so they wanted to be prepared for that. Continental was supposed to get back to me and say, look, we want to be prepared because we know there are going to be some cell phone pics and all sorts of things from going on inside that, and as corporate communications, they want to try to keep a handle on that.
Harris, I think that
there's the plane.
Yeah, I think that you can pretty much guarantee that is the plane. That's the reason for giving it that emergency landing designation. What that does is it allows air traffic control to bring that plane and that plane only into Newark Airport. All other planes are going to stay in the sky while they get this one in and on the ground safely, as it appears has already been done.
Yep.
That's why, we can be pretty certain that is, in fact, the 777, which has now pretty much disappeared into a sea of murk there. But